PUMMEL parts of California and Nevada. It could bring 12 feet of snow and 115 mile-per-hour winds.
This is possibly the best storm that we had in, I think 16 years. That's what they're saying.
The largest wildfire in Texas history continues to burn, having major impacts on cattle farmers.
We had fires to the west, fires to the east, fires to the south, and fires to the north.
The cattle are going to die.
This year's cherry blossom peak bloom prediction is out. We'll show you what it says.
Because a lot of people want to see the cherry blossoms.
And it's the first day of meteorological spring. We'll look at how warmer temperatures could affect your health.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Lindsay Mastis, and there is a major storm already impacting portions of the western United States. Blizzard conditions could last through the weekend, with some putting snowfall estimates at higher elevations near 12 feet. Let's turn now to meteorologist Brian Vandegraff, who's tracking that system.
Well, weather on the West Coast, not so good. Another system continuing to impact the western coast of the United States. Rain in the lower elevations from California up into Oregon and Washington State, but it's the Sierra Nevadas that are going to get hammered with snow moving forward into the weekend. It's just a prolonged event with snowfall rates potentially up to 3 inches per hour. We're talking about some major snow. Blizzard warnings up for portions of the Sierra Nevadas. You can see that. Winter storm warnings for other portions of the West. It is going to be a very intense weekend. We're looking at the potential that some places could see upwards of 12 feet of snow at the highest elevations.
And all the snow predicted to fall in the next couple of days does come with risks. But for some winter sport lovers, it is just part of the thrill. Ashley Sharp has more.
Afternoon chain controls slowed the few drivers heading into the Kirkwood Valley Thursday.
Yeah, you'll be locked in probably.
Braving Highway 88, the one-way in and out, to catch the lifts while they still can.
Try to get a few runs in at least.
Perfect, it was a perfect white.
On near whiteout slopes.
This is possibly the best storm that we had in, I think 16 years. That's what they're saying.
With wind blowing hard as snow started falling Thursday afternoon.
We hope for a lot of snow, but the wind is something else right now.
Those skiing Kirkwood,
taking it minute by minute,
are bracing for blizzard-like conditions.
You plan for it. If it is like this, it is what it is.
As possibly 12 feet of snow dumps at Kirkwood Friday.
Properly prepare. I think that's the number one thing.
Probably not as prepared as we should be.
Took an early beer break, but I think we might take an early exit.
Some saying, forget the slopes, let's find the fire. As Kirkwood leaders lock in for their biggest storm of the season.
Storms like this, we're going to just play it safe and hunker down, ride it out to the other side. And if we can open up some terrain that we're comfortable with, we'll definitely do that.
And a snow measurement in California has happened earlier than usual because of this storm. The state's Department of Water Resources is measuring the snow in the mountains near Lake Tahoe every month, and they did the measurement yesterday ahead of the storm. The current snowpack is about 80% of what it should be. The Reno area is also bracing for impact here. A winter storm warning there is in effect until Saturday. In the city, snowplow crews are going to be on duty around the clock to try to keep roads clear. But when storms are days long and those temperatures overnight get well below freezing, it can make it difficult.
The first time I've seen in several years that they've actually had an advanced blizzard warning. So that obviously brings some concern for us. As we can see, we already have a lot of winds. I think one of the things that has us concerned is that we're going to see the storm, the snowfall, preceded by the rain. The snow is going to hit the ground, and it has the ability, as the temperatures drop over the nights, it's going to freeze.
And of course, officials in the area are urging residents to avoid the roads, and snow won't be the only risk. High winds are also forecast, so people in the area should be prepared for potential power outages. And we'll be tracking this storm for you all weekend on social media. We're going to post the latest from our meteorologist in the western U.S. Just search the National Weather Desk on your favorite social media platform to get all the updates. The Texas wildfires have also taken another deadly turn. A second person lost their life on Thursday because of the flames. That fire is now the largest in Texas history. It's burned more than 1 million acres. And livestock farmers are taking it especially hard, with the fires claiming at least 1,000 cattle. Drew Powell has that story.
We had fires to the west, fires to the east, fires to the south, and fires to the north.
The cattle are going to die, and it's going to take a long time to replace those cattle.
Right now, they're hauling in hay to feed what cattle they have left.
When grass is gone from fire, ranchers have to turn to hay to feed livestock. Fellow ranchers from neighboring states are volunteering to help, as hay, feed, and fencing supplies are needed to help ranches recover after being impacted by the fires.
They lost a lot of cows and calves, and depends on the operation they had going, or steers. They lost a lot. I was out there surveying, and I talked to some of the ranchers that I knew. It's bad. It's bad. It's terrible out there. So they're just not going to have any cattle right now. The prices may go up.
Trying to figure out what they have left, and assessing their situations, and then trying to make the best possible decisions they can to do what's next. The cattle will either be rendered or buried according to environmental regulations.
State and federal resources are being activated to help with recovery efforts.
And yesterday, the National Park Service released its official, much-anticipated peak cherry blossom outlook. Meteorologist Steve Rudin is breaking it down for us.
The Yoshino cherry trees are a big deal here in Washington, D.C. Yesterday, the National Park Service unveiled their annual prediction when we expect to see at least 70% of those trees in full bloom. It's going to be March 23rd through March 26th. But before we get to that point, we have several stages to get through. The first stage is green bud. Some of those trees are already at that stage right now, but not all of them. Second stage, florets become visible. And then the third stage, this is when temperature becomes highly critical. That's when we have the extension of florets. At that point, temperature is really warm, is going to really speed things up. Cooler will slow things down. But stage 4, that's peduncle elongation. And then the event that everyone is waiting for, that is stage 5, otherwise known as the puffy white stage. That's when, once again, at least 70% of the trees are in full bloom. Now, full bloom is going to last anywhere between 8 to 10 days. It depends a lot on temperature, but if you're planning your trip to the D.C. area, you better act now if you want to get some good deals on hotels and airfares, because a lot of people want to see the cherry blossoms. I'm Steve Rudin in Washington, D.C.
And if you're looking for something with a little more speed, NASCAR is headed to Vegas this weekend. Brandon Lawson has the weather forecast for the weekend's race.
We're going into Vegas this weekend, where we could see not only strong winds, but the potential for a few dust devils to come up out of that wind as well. It's going to be very windy, especially on Saturday. Friday, we'll see those winds pick up a bit. We're talking about sustained winds Friday between 20 and 30 miles per hour, but gusts could get up to 45 miles per hour at times in Vegas on Friday. And then on Saturday, we could see winds sustained between 40 and 45 miles per hour. That is just sustained winds itself, with gusts up to 60 miles per hour possibility on Saturday. There could be a high wind warning in effect for Vegas on Saturday, as NASCAR will be in town for the Xfinity race. And then Sunday, winds will calm down. We're looking at improving weather. Now on Friday and Saturday, with those strong winds, there could be a potential for a few dust devils to really light up. And NASCAR has had to drive in dust before. They've raced in dust. Back in 2016, they were in Vegas. NASCAR held a restart off. They dropped the green flag, and there was dusty conditions on the track. Obviously, it lowers visibility, but can also cause some health concerns too, especially if you're out in that dust too long. So just be careful if you're a NASCAR fan this weekend with the winds, and hold on to your hats. Definitely going to be windy for Friday and Saturday. Much better weather, though, by Sunday. I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson.
And take a look at this. This is ice piled nearly 10 feet high, towering over homes along the east side of Houghton Lake in Michigan. It is created by a mix of heavy wind and warmer temperatures. And while the ice wall is pretty fascinating, it could actually be a risk to people and property. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we're going to look at how this year's warmer winter weather is impacting apple crops in Indiana. And we'll explain how this cool ice formation, known as hair ice, is created.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Today we'll top on the 40s in the Northeast with a lot of sunshine. The wind still stays a bit active with some gusts around 20 miles per hour. Afternoon temps with some sun, 1 o'clock or so, running in the 30s and low 40s. Those wind chills, they'll be running in the teens and 20s, though. Our next round of wet weather should be moving in on Saturday. The best part of Saturday is probably the early morning hours. That's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Some of that wet weather should be moving out by Sunday. My hope is we'll get into some late weekend sun.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Friday starting out dry and sunny, but as we move to the afternoon, we'll start to see clouds starting to thicken up. Rain becoming likely on Friday night, lingering through Saturday. Late Saturday afternoon into the evening hours, we'll start to see the rain tapering. Temperatures will be mild as we go through your Friday, highs in the 50s. Same for Saturday, but we will start to see temperatures recovering further. By Sunday, we're going to be hitting the 60s again.
Good Friday morning, meteorologist Michael Ehrenberg with a look at your Southeast regional forecast for this Friday. And it features rain for the Gulf Coast states, coastal Mississippi and Alabama, through Alabama, Georgia, rain, thunderstorms through Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham. This rain moves through South and North Carolina and into Virginia, it looks like, by the mid to late afternoon, evening hours, with cloudy to partly sunny skies for the state of Florida. Highs will be chilly, 40s and 50s along, and with that rain shield, look for 70s and 80s through Florida.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A band of lake-effect snow swept across the Syracuse, New York area, piling up snow on these cars late Wednesday through Thursday morning. Snow totals varied from place to place, from half an inch to at least 17 inches in other spots before tapering off. And behold the power of lightning. This pine tree exploded after a strike, turning it into shards and splinters.
And we're continuing our countdown to the solar eclipse. Across America, we are now just 38 days away. And on April 8th, you may be one of the millions trying to catch the total eclipse. But if you don't want damage to your eyes, you have to make sure that the glasses you're wearing are eclipse approved. And here is Casey Arsenault with what you should look out for.
It's important to remember that not all sunglasses are made the same. First and foremost, you should be making sure that the label on the sunglasses says ISO 12312 or UV 400. And high-end expensive brands like Oakley or Ray-Ban will most likely filter this UV light. But because a lot of us like the way they look, we'll go to third-party websites or marketplaces to try to get a better price or a deal. However, if you do this, there's a chance you could be swindled, even though these brands use marketplaces and third-party sellers to sell more of their product to a lot more consumers.
Oftentimes, the retailer themselves don't inspect the third-party inventory offered by online marketplace sellers. And since we only have one pair of eyes, that's not a good chance to take.
So what can you do to protect yourself? Go straight to the source. Go to a brick and mortar retailer and buy it in person. Carefully inspect these labels, whether it's the UV 400 label or a brand label. Make sure that you inspect it. And if it looks suspicious or something looks off, you can check with your optometrist. Next, if you have a UV light available to you, there's a little trick. You put a dollar bill behind the lens, shine the UV light on the lens, and if you can't see the security strip on the dollar bill, that means they're eclipse safe. And last but not least, you can go to the American Astrological Society's website. They have a list of eclipse approved brands.
And stay with the National Weather Desk as we count down the days until the April 8th eclipse. We're also going to have much more on the eclipse posted on our YouTube channel. Just search the National Weather Desk and be sure to subscribe. Winter is an important time of year for Indiana fruit farmers. They rely on the cooler temperatures to stop the fruit from growing until spring. But this winter has been a roller coaster ride with temperatures. Meteorologist Lynette Grant has more.
Right now, the only apples left on the trees at Hildebrand Fruit Farms in southwest Michigan are ones that did not survive last year's harvest. Looking back on 2023, owner Mike Hildebrand says last year was great and they had a huge crop.
We still have apples in the cooler, so regardless of what happens in 2024, we're still selling 2023's apples.
2024 has already been a roller coaster for fruit crops. It was snowier on Halloween than on Christmas. And overall, it's been mild. However, there were numerous blasts of Arctic air, and that has Hildebrand concerned about the status of his peach trees, another important crop on his property.
Anytime you get below zero, you start flirting with some magic number that you don't really know what it is, but it's going to start killing buds on the peach trees. So we're a little bit nervous about that.
Fruit farmers like Hildebrand are already investigating how much damage there could be on the peach trees.
So we cut a few branches and brought them in, put them in water, kind of like you have flowers. And it started growing the leaves, but some of the peach buds did not grow. So that tells me that there's damage.
Farmers won't know the full extent of the damage until the trees wake up. But the trees, they are primed and nearly ready to go. Hildebrand recalls another warm spell back in 2012, where apple trees went from dormant to full bloom in 9 days in March. Typically, the trees blossom in the first week of May, maybe even the last week of April.
But doing it in March, it doesn't work because the weather's going to do what the weather does in Michigan, and it's going to get cold again.
And of course, it's a staple in restaurants all over the country. But when it comes to whitefish, it is getting harder and harder to find young ones in the wild. So now there's an effort underway to see their reproducing population rebound. Mark Gillette has more from northern Michigan.
Right now we have a lot of whitefish. They're getting very old and they're not producing a lot of babies or any. So for the last 20 years, there's been basically no reproduction to adulthood.
As a hatchery manager with the Little Traverse Bay Band of Odawa Indians, Chris Day says the clock may be ticking on the fish that made Leland's Fish Town famous. At a presentation to a concerned audience, Day brought the data that suggests there are a lot of whitefish out in our open waters. The problem is, for a host of reasons, they just aren't successfully producing the next generation of fish. And if they don't, they could disappear.
Whitefish, even at smaller sizes, are the food of other fish, and so you're having a whole ecosystem kind of collapse there, and so we're trying to prevent that.
Preventing a whitefish collapse, when it's not entirely certain why they aren't reproducing, requires addressing a ton of possible solutions.
We are currently involved with maybe 17 research projects trying to figure out what's wrong, whether it's UV light, food problems, predation, disease issues. So we're looking at it in every way we can, and it's probably going to wind up being a culmination of all these things.
A lot of possibilities, including one already underway in the UP, to try and get fish into new waters. Hopefully, it'll lead to a new generation.
Stocking may be just a life raft, buying us more time to figure out what the problem is. And there's also solutions that we're looking into. One of the solutions is maybe getting them to start running rivers again, back to the way that they used to.
Raising young whitefish in rivers, hoping it's maybe one of the pieces of a very large puzzle. A puzzle they're hopeful they can solve before it's too late.
And today is the first day of meteorological spring. Emily Gracie is explaining what that means and looks at why warmer seasons could be harmful to your health.
The official astronomical start to spring isn't for a few more weeks, but today marks the start of meteorological spring, which always starts on March 1st. It's a simpler way for meteorologists and climatologists to break down the seasons for record-keeping purposes. And this year, those experts are saying spring is heating up. Analysis from Climate Central shows that spring has warmed by 2.2 degrees Fahrenheit in 229 U.S. cities since 1970. The Southwest has felt it the most, with locations in Nevada, Texas, and Arizona warming as much as 6 degrees Fahrenheit. While warmer and earlier springs may sound enticing, there are some drawbacks. Earlier spring means less snow accumulation and earlier snowmelt, which can stress water resources in the West. And while it could extend the growing season nationwide, that also means longer allergy and mosquito seasons. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
And before a short break, we're going to take in some views of the desert in the Southwest.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Some wintry mix near St. Louis, and then we've got rain moving into the Ohio Valley for the day today. But Plains, you've got a lot of sunshine there. Now, as we continue on into the day tomorrow, cold air is going to start trying to move its way in. So Bismarck's only 40, but just to the south there, getting into the 60s. By the time we get to Sunday, still dealing with some snow up there to the north in Bismarck, but most of the Midwest pretty quiet with some rain in Wisconsin.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. It's a little chilly all the way from North Texas back into Little Rock. A little stormy out for New Orleans. We're watching those showers and thunderstorms push through the area in Louisiana and Mississippi. That means dry air sliding in. It also means a big turnaround in temperatures. Get ready for springtime to come back. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and a good Friday morning to you, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Happy beginning of meteorological spring, the 1st of March. Winter is hanging on, however, especially in the northwest interior, where temps will only manage to hit 42 in the city by the Sound. Seattle running about 10 degrees below the curve versus 80 out of Phoenix. Meanwhile, up in the Sierra Nevada, heavy snow up around Tahoe as we head into this weekend. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
And here's something for your super cool weather files. If you don't know about hair ice, you're about to learn with this explanation from meteorologist Kristen Clark.
Conditions and location need to be just right in order for hair ice to form, hence the scarcity of sightings. Hair ice forms in rotting wood when the air is moist and below freezing, and it's generally found between 45 and 55 degrees north latitude, making the Pacific Northwest a prime spot for hair ice. More recently, in 2015, scientists determined that a certain fungus needed to be present in the wood in order for hair ice to form. On cold nights, ice first forms on the surface of the wood, trapping a thin layer of liquid between the ice and the pores of the wood. As new ice forms, it pushes the older ice upward, creating long, hair-like strands of ice. The fungus prevents the thin hairs from clumping together, allowing hair ice to keep its beautiful shape for several hours.
And we'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. And thank you for joining us. I'm Lindsay Mastis. Make it a great Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday morning.